She left behind a husband and children, but many years later came to realize that it had been a grave mistake. Emily Rogers was, to all appearances, a normal 29-year-old suburbanite. Her husband, David, was a 30-year-old surgeon, and they had 2 small children, precocious 6-year-old Emma and 4-year-old Jack, a wild ball of energy. Emily spent her days taking care of the children and managing the household, while David worked long hours at the nearby medical center. The passion for healing often meant extended hours off from home, with the eventually accrued strain on the dynamics of their relationship. Initially, their marriage appeared picture perfect, but subtle changes began emerging over time. Emily became increasingly reserved, responding to David's conversations with minimal engagement. Her attention shifted dramatically, with smartphone interactions consuming most of her previously child-focused time. David thought perhaps she was just feeling disconnected because he was working so much. He planned a very specific weekend getaway to reunite them. He made reservations at an upscale hotel, booked a reservation for an upscale dinner, and arranged for his parents to take the children. With anticipation, David left work early that afternoon. He bought a big, bright flower arrangement and a cold bottle of champagne, eager to be able to surprise Emily and rekindle their intimacy. Unbeknownst to him, a shocking revelation awaited him at home, one that would dramatically change their seemingly perfect life. David entered the front door, calling out to his family. Emma and Jack ran from the living room, clapping and glad to see their father. He was surprised, however, to see an unknown young woman following them. This thief with his children confused, David asked him to identify the lady. She introduced herself as Lauren, a college student, 23 years old, whom Emily had hired as a nanny to take care of the kids while she was away. David was bewildered since Emily had never mentioned hiring a nanny, let alone where she had gone. As David grew increasingly concerned, he thanked Lauren and sent her home, telling her he could take care of the kids. Throughout the day, he attempted to call Emily numerous times, though she would not answer her calls or messages. Late that night, after the children were asleep, Emily returned home. She was dressed in an elegant outfit, wearing sophisticated makeup and expensive jewelry. Immediately, David confronted her, asking her to explain why she had left their children with a stranger, herself being gone without any explanation. Emily told him that she had another man and was leaving both him and the children to make her happy. She told him that she had met her boyfriend on the internet and had been communicating with him for months, and she couldn't take it any longer with them. She wanted a new life. Without even a goodbye with Emma or Jack, Emily packed her suitcase and was out the door. David was devastated, trying to fathom how a marriage that was supposedly sound could fall apart so suddenly. The next morning, David did his best to break the news gently to his young children. He fixed a favorite breakfast and tried to make them understand that their mother wasn't coming back. At first, Emma and Jack were confused to the absence of their mother. After some days, they became sad and puzzled. David found it really hard to balance work and single parenting of 2 young children. David called Lauren and provided her with a full-time live-in nanny position. Lauren, touched by their story, took up the job with their family and promised to be a good role model for both Emma and Jack. David's medical career was picking up, and he began his practice, which allowed him to spend more time with his children. Lauren easily became part of their family and soon was attached to Emma and Jack as any mother could be. Soon enough, David and Lauren's relationship took a romantic turn. They got married and were overjoyed when they found out they would have a baby. Now Emma was 9 and Jack 7 years old, and the family was preparing to celebrate Christmas. On Christmas Eve, during decorating and hanging of stockings, David heard a knock on the door. His friendly smile was gone in a second as he saw the least expected visitor. Standing in the doorway was Emily, his ex-wife, with a suitcase in her hand. The years of living had taken their toll. She wore an exhausted and beaten look on her face. Immediately, Emily tried to enter, but David stood blocking her, demanding he knew why she was back. She explained that when she left her family that night, it seemed like freedom was upon her. She and her newly found boyfriend literally lived a life of no cares, going wherever they wished. That freedom was brief, and when the money ran out some weeks later, Emily had to find work as a cashier in a grocery store. Meanwhile, her boyfriend commenced an affair with another woman. She ditched him when she found out, but then found herself stranded in a strange town with no money to get back home. After all those years of duress and literally saving every penny, Emily finally made it back. Tearfully, she confessed that she regretted leaving David and the children and how successful his businesses ran. She wanted another chance. As she leaned in to kiss him, David gently stopped her, placing a hand on her shoulder. He explained that he was sorry she had to go through such hardships, but he couldn't let her back into his life. When she had left, it had caused him so much pain, and he had learned how to raise their 2 children on his own. Over time, his trust in her had completely dissolved. Besides, David was in love again. This other woman then in his life had stood by him during the toughest time any man can face, being there for him and the children when the chips were down. He didn't see a future without her anymore, and he was quite resolute about not going back into this woman's life. Emily was devastated. She had assumed that David would wait for her, holding out hope for her return, but she had miscalculated. David calmly told her that though he wouldn't stop their children from seeing her, the decision would be left to them. Emily nodded in agreement as she realized her mistakes. She promised herself that from then on, she would be that mom her children always needed. As they bid their last farewell, David shut the door and came back to his family, grateful for the way life had turned out. He knew he was truly blessed. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on all our latest videos.